Let us love our enemies and pray for those who persecute us. In today's gospel, my dear brothers and sisters, the Lord is demanding from us to love and to pray for our enemies. To love our enemies is the most difficult things that we can ever do. But when Jesus said this, to love your enemies and to pray for those who persecute you, He didn't simply say that, but one day He Himself would be doing it. And rightly on the cross, when He was in the peak of His suffering, He prays to the Father saying, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do." To forgive itself, you need to love that person. If you do not love, the forgiveness does not come. And so all those people who persecuted Jesus, killed Him, He loved them. And then He prayed for them to the Father to forgive them. Well, we may say that this is okay with Jesus to love and to forgive because He is God. Yes, He is God, but we cannot forget that He was 100% human being like us. In fact, the perfection of humanity was in Jesus much more than us. And so, He was in pain. He suffered everything much more than we have suffered, the hurts and pains from our people whom we call today our enemies. My dear brothers and sisters, we can forgive and love our enemies. It is possible. How and when? First of all, we know that we Christians are supposed to love. Our very call is to love. Christianity is a religion of love. And therefore, no matter who the other person is, your enemy, your friend, your loved one, we have to love them. And this is the basic of our life of a Christian. If you follow Christ, then we have no choice than to love our enemies like Jesus Himself has loved us. The second thing that will make us to love our enemies only when we realize the nature of ourselves. What is our nature? You see, God is love. And this God who is love has created us in His likeness and image. So if He has created us in His likeness and image, it means there is in us His nature. His nature is love, and therefore some aspect of His love is in us. So we are also in His nature. So the moment we realize this aspect of our life, that we are created in the likeness and image of God, and therefore God's nature in us, that means the love is in us, and we are aware of this, we come to this realization, I think we are transformed. And this realization comes to us when we know the Word of God. Because through the Word of God, our nature is revealed. And our nature is nothing but our nature comes from God. And therefore, we are transformed through the Word of God. And this transformation makes us to realize that I am in line with God, and therefore I can also love our enemies and pray for them. We will be able to pray for our enemies. Not only this, that my nature is to love, or I am love. In fact, we Catholics, as we receive Jesus in the Eucharist, in the form of communion, we know we receive Jesus in His reality. That is His divine nature, human nature, His soul, spirit, body and blood. So it simply means we receive love in our worship and in our communion. We receive love, and therefore this love that comes into us on a regular basis as we participate in the Eucharist, the nature of God grows in us. We are more built up on the nature of God as we receive more and more Jesus in the Eucharist. And this nature that is being built up in us also makes us to love our neighbor, to love our enemies. So my dear brothers and sisters, from the Word of God and from the worship part of our life, it would demand from us, once we realize our nature is to love, and therefore we have no choice than to love even our enemies. So my dear brothers and sisters, let us love our enemies and pray for those who persecute us. And when we do this, the very next line of today's gospel tells us, by this you will become the sons and daughters of God. So you see, the reward itself is that as we love our enemies, that act actually converts us into the children of God. So that's our nature, because at the end we are called to be the children of God. And so if we are children of God, yes, we are going to love our enemies, and so there is no hatred, there is no anger, there is no unforgiveness. And this love that we have towards our enemies frees us and sets us free from all pain and all hatred and revenge. And that is the moment we become children of God. Therefore, let us read the Bible and be transformed. As we receive Jesus in the Eucharist, let us be transformed into His image and live the life of Christ in our lives. That is, to love our enemies and to pray for them.